It is now 11:13 at night.
Girl.
My fiance is playing RuneScape. I'm tired, but I want to get this story. I want to get this review over with. So, first off, make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Link is in the description for the story. Sorry, I'm tired. I'm probably going to go sleep after this video. And please support the channel. Have the channel grow. Excuse me. And this is my own opinion. Back in anyone who's a big fan of anime, they'll always tell you what's your favorite anime and possibly what anime kind of got you in anime. I'm really not a big fan of anime. The only thing I'm keeping up with now is every Daily Life of Monster Girl, Monster Musume. Because, oh come on, it's adorable. It's so dark. Just go, oh, Etsu the slime. She's just so, worship her. I hope she wins his affection so she can be Sumba. And I'm getting it out myself. So when people ask me what's my favorite anime all the time, I'll probably just say the Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I like the card game. I play the card game all the time. It's like, I really like it. And I was like, Kaiba is Kaiba. Joey, I love Joey because he's like, well, Yugi, you have the Pharaoh. You can rig game to win. And Kaiba, you're rich. I just be Joey and win by luck and Joeyness and power my chin. That made sense. That made more sense in my mind and online. But when you asking how did I get into anime? I have to go to like a really somewhat obscure anime called The Big O. I love The Big O. Before I found out about the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, because I only really got into the anime, doing the whole marathon leading up to the Orichalcos arc, and especially before Ghost in the Shell came along, and I found out about that, and I fell in love with that show. Big O was my favorite anime. I really loved the adventures of Roger Smith, who is completely not Bruce Wayne. Remember that. And his adventures with R. Dorothy Wainwright, who is not Barbara Gordon, his butler Norman Burke, who is not Alfred Pennywise, and Colonel Dustin, who is completely not, really not, Commissioner Gordon. Quotes. And I'm kind of upset with how even to this day, I'm kind of upset about how it ended. But then again, we have fan fictions. Quick spoiler alert before I get into the review. This story might contain spoilers for Big O in general. So let's get started. So the story is called, I guess the full official name is episode 27, Roger the Vigilante. Why is it called that specifically? Well, the author. I'm having a brain fart. I forgot the author's name. What that? I am dumb. Oh, Galaxy 1001D. Weird name with the numbers and D. I don't know. He thought he could be creative and come up and continue the series. But the thing with how Big O was structured, especially how it ended, it's kind of hard to do it because it was open-ended. You can literally, the director of the anime actually admitted that it's completely open-ended. You can start from any episode, you can end at any episode, and the ending to the last episode is like really, really, really weird. It's like, what? I can't really describe. The best I can describe the ending is, and this is kind of important because this is actually how the story starts. It has Roger in Big O facing towards his Big O's like this gigantic mech called with like gigantic pistons or pile drivers for arms. I don't know how to describe the actual arms. And he's trying to convince this lady named Angel, who is operating this ghostly, in the show they're called Megaduces, named Big Fow. No, not Big Fow, Big Venus, my bad. Oh, that's gonna goof. From trying to, I guess, wipe the whole plane of existence out. And then they collide, and then we get like some kind of weird Gainax sort of thing, where Angel, I guess, sort of reveals that she kind of knows she's an anime character, because she references the fact that she was tired of the puppets pulling her string, possibly the puppets being the storyboard artist. I honestly don't know. All I know is like really weird. And then the last scene is actually a callback to the first episode, where Roger Smith is driving the Griffin, which is not the Batmobile, by the way, to negotiation to kind of grab our Dorothy Wainwright from the villainous Jason Beck, who is honestly not the Joker. And then again, he might be like Gold Killer Riddler. I don't know. Anyway, it's anime Batman. It's like a running gag. It's like, oh, it's anime Batman. Oh, it's Phoenix. Oh, it's Roger Smith. He's Bruce Wayne with the hairstyle of Phoenix Wright. So why does he have that hairstyle? I don't know. So let's get into the review. The plot. How he did the whole ending, how he incorporated it into this story. I thought it was probably the only way I could think of to continue the story. He made it like some kind of weird fever dream-esque sequel. I don't know. Again, it kind of continued the whole the drive into the negotiation, where instead of Dorothy being the robot, Roger's the robot, and he gets taken apart and tossed in the trunk. And then he wakes up, and then the story continues from there of grabbing Dorothy's drive, doing a conversation with Colonel Datsun over trying to help protect his people from his men from being fired and court-martialed. Him finding Jason Beck, him convincing Beck, and some kind of cool conversation about how possibly Megaduce's and Dominus's work. Him putting in the anime, there's Dorothy has a sister called Red Destiny. He puts her Red Destiny's memory drive into Dorothy, so Dorothy's trying to kill everyone, trying to convince Roger to kill her, and then the whole story kind of ends with Roger kind of admitting his feelings with Dorothy, which I don't. I'll get more into that in a little bit, but for the plot, I thought it was a really nice way to continue the story. It's not perfect, although but it's the reason I don't find it perfect is due to the simple fact that it's just that ending to the original show and how he branched off into the series. It's like, sure, it's probably the only thing that makes sense, but it's still like really weird at him continuing it, and it's like, oh, it's like really, really weird, and kind of gave me somewhat of a minor migraine. I wouldn't call it bad. It's just really weird. I can't really put a concrete answer of why I like the plot, but I don't like it. But I can't find anything wrong, because it still fixes all. It still kind of clears up some of the plots that they left open from the show, from the last episode, and kind of cleans them up so that way they can continue progressing. There's a lot of small details in the story that I really liked. The first chapter is like a recap chapter, where literally Norman does like a very creative break the fourth wall. So I was fixing Big O when I accidentally activated his armory. The first, second, and third walls protected themselves and were relatively unscathed, but I'm afraid I have accidentally broke the fourth wall using Big O, and I've been trying to fix it. Excuse me for talking to you, sir. And then kind of goes into a recap how the show works, and and I thought it was a really nice touch. I thought that whole chapter was a really nice touch. It kind of introduces the concept. It recommends the show. It tells it gives you a brief recap in case you honestly don't want to watch it, because really the plot, how it's structured, only really matters if you watch maybe like the very last 4 or 5 episodes of the show. Relatively around there. I would recommend the show. I love the show. And there's also little touches at the end of each chapter. It has like a little written scene where it says a table full of hourglasses. Phone rings, and Norman picks it up, and it gives you the name of the next chapter. Or if it's like the end of the story, it'll give you the name of the next story, which I thought was a really nice touch. That, while keeping the narrative, also kept the feel of the show itself. It's a really nice touch, and I guess but again, I don't know. It's some kind of niggling problem. I can't describe it. Maybe it's the kind of out of nowhere relationship between Dorothy and Roger. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. I can't give it a perfect score, but I don't want to give it any lower than I think it's
Oh, come on.
a 9. Character development. All the characters feel like they're from the show. They still they didn't, for this type of story. You can't really give them any sort of random character. You have to feel what you think the show itself might do. And I thought he really did it. The author really did it nicely. Dorothy's on point, especially the whole distress about having Red Destiny's memory banks in her and trying to convince Roger to kill her, and her despair over the fact that she's gonna try and kill herself. Try being operative, or she tried to jump off. She tries to jump off Roger's house, which is like, guess what, 50 stories tall. Would that kill her? I don't know. Beck seems the same. I mean, this is not a story where you can't go any sort of direction. You have to go what you think the anime might go, and I thought he really did that well. Or I'm guessing it's a he. I'm guessing the author is a he. And it felt really natural. It felt a lot like the show and how the show would operate overall. So I have to give that a 10 out of 10. Grammar. I have to give it a 9 out of 10. It's not really anything wrong with the story itself. There are no problems in the main story. It's just in the recap chapter, he accidentally put the words 26 without a space right next to it. And I know it's a minor thing, but if any grammar Nazi reads this review and reads the story, they're gonna hound my ass. They're gonna hound me and tell me that there should not be a 10 out of 10. It should be like 1 out of 10 for having grammar. No, I can't. I honestly can't put it in a 10 because I do not want to be hounded, but I can't. But it's literally like just that. It's literally just that one little space. There's 226, and then like, and that's it. That was literally the only grammar issues in the entire story. So I had to give it a 9 out of 10. I can't. Maybe if you like space them, it's like, okay, then it's 10 out of 10. But unless he spaces them, then I can't really give him a 10. I have to give him a 9. I mean, and that's relatively it. Pacing and imagery. Just like I said in the character development, it feels a lot like you're actually watching the show. The pacing, the story is about close to 3,300 words, and how it's paced and everything, it does feel like you're watching an actual full-length episode of the show. And I guess the whole scenes with the phone picking up are commercial breaks. But I don't have anything wrong with the pace. I don't have anything wrong with the pacing. The imagery, it's kind of scattered depending on certain scenes. There's one scene where 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 it's the scene after when Dorothy starts attacking them, shooting them, and they're in like a random room, and all of a sudden it switches to like him going to the catwalks above around Big O. I thought that's kind of weird. I don't know, maybe like a scene cut or something like that. I didn't that sort of thing would probably make sense in anime, but story, kind of sketchy. I can't really deduct many points because it fits the theme of the show, but it just feels awkward reading it, and that's just personally, it just feels kind of awkward and kind of random. So I had to give it a 9. And finally, connection to genre and emotional investment. I wasn't really. I probably was. Connection to genre. It's an adventure drama. I don't really have anything wrong with them. The drama makes complete sense. It's Big O. It kind of built itself off the whole idea of drama, and I guess it's for the length of the story, for how this adventure. I guess it's a decent adventure. Again, this is like one of those stories that's open-ended. You can start anywhere and end anywhere, and go in any order. Like you can literally start at the last episode, and then watch each episode like randomly. And it's like, okay, it still makes sense. It kind of makes sense, and I guess he kind of kept that. And the author tried and go for that legitimate feel, like you were actually watching an episode of the show. And I like that. I like the connection of genre. The emotional investment, I have to say, there's like 13 chapters, and it doesn't really get in. Doesn't I personally didn't feel that investment until Roger's chat with Datsun, which is like, I think, chapter 5, chapter 4, or chapter 5. One of those two chapters, I can't remember. But the fact that I wasn't really invested, it kind of felt like when the story first started and it started winding up. It felt like, okay, it was trying to reestablish itself, try and get to status quo right away, so that way you can and kind of build upon it and move on to the next plot. And I thought, okay, that's okay, but it's kind of hard to get invested with some kind of thing that tries to establish the status quo first of all. And I can't really fault the author for doing that. I can't really badmouth the author trying to establish, try and end the whole big foul, big Venus thing before trying to go into trying to get the readers emotionally invested with the new story and continue on from there. I can't really fault the author for doing that. I can't really do that. But it's still the fact that I didn't really get emotionally invested in. It's still the matter is that I didn't get invested right away. It's like, it's a Big O story. I love Big O story, but I didn't get invested right away. So I can't really give a perfect score for that. So I have to give it what? It's an 8. An 8 out of 10. And not, again, for review stage, 8's like the average. 7 or 8 is the average. I'm still deciding which one. So I can't really, but in this type of story, you have to try and hook the author right back in. I guess you can get emotionally invested with the whole fourth wall break, because I thought that was honestly kind of funny. But I can't, again, nothing against the author for that. Nothing against the author for what he was trying to do, what he was trying to establish. It's just, I felt kind of off. So, would I recommend, favorite part, and final thoughts? Would I recommend? I would, if you're a fan of the anime, if you're a fan of the anime, I would recommend it. It's not, it feels just like the show, and it's enough that if you're a reader and you like the show, you can easily just jump in, no problem. So I would recommend to anyone who is a fan. If you're not a fan, then and it's like maybe if you at least watch the show, then maybe. So guess too if you're a fan, maybe if you're not. Depends on the person. Favorite part. The conversation between Roger Smith and Beckel, the whole idea of the whole how does a Megaduce judge who writes it. I thought that was actually pretty creative. I think that's like the whole. I think for the base of this, all his stories are going to be is that philosophy. How does a Dominus judge its dominance? And I thought that's actually a pretty I thought that's a pretty deep conversation, especially since they referenced Alex Swordwater, how he like had the cables cut, and it said the message he not, and of course Alan Gabriel getting killed by the ghost of Schwarzwald, with the message guilty. And I thought that was something flew in my eye. And I thought that was a really good conversation. I thought that was a really thought-provoking conversation because the whole idea of how the Megaduces were judged and who picked them, that's never really been brought up in the show, and I'm happy that the author actually brought that up, and in the way it did. And I thought, okay, that's really creative. So, and finally, final thoughts. Truthfully, the only reason this story took as long as it did because I was considering either doing just this story by itself or waiting for the author to finish all the stories and then review all of them at once. Because I've read some of the other stories. If I did read at all the other stories, all the minor descriptions, except maybe the grammar, due to the fact that again grammar Nazis will hound me, would go up to 10 because the series as a whole connects that in an open-ended way. So you can go into any story wanting to, but it also has that loose thread of connectivity with the growing relationship between Roger and Dorothy, which I thought was really clever. But I have to judge just Roger the Vigilante by itself, and again, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just something personally is just off for me. I don't know. So I can't really badmouth the story. I can't really badmouth the story, especially what he's trying to do. And would I call it an amazingly bad story? No, far from a bad story. Would I call it an amazing story in general? No, not really. Maybe if he finishes the story, all the stories, including the prequel, because he's making like a prequel of how Roger met Big O. But I think he canceled that. I'm not sure. But for just the one story, and it is a good story. When he finishes the story, I'm probably gonna do it episodically. Once in a while, I'll probably do like one episode just so I can at least catch up and hopefully give him the time to finish the series. Because I don't know how long it's gonna go. Then maybe I might say it's probably one of the best series I've ever read because it does really pick up the second story and this is like the starting point. This is where you're supposed to get invested for the next story, and it keeps building, and I like that. But for just this story, just Roger the Vigilante, it's a good story. Not a great story, but a good story nonetheless. So please, please tell me what you think of the review. Please go in the comments. Give me your opinion. Tell me if there's any way to improve. Next episode, I look at a pony wearing a suit of armor and Hulk in a dress. Gonna be awkward.